Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how are my snipers doing today? I hope you guys are doing fantastic. Listen, today we're going to be talking about the one and only Jasmy coin. Now, look, it's been a couple of days, but I won't lie, the community has been amazing, right? It has been amazing. And even though it's been a couple of days, we are back and we're going to post this coin more frequently, right? But obviously, with more frequent updates means that there's going to be less, you know, game life changing news, especially if we do it every other day or something or every day. But at least it does bring you a peace of mind. Anyways, let's just jump right into this, right? So we can see that kind of ever since we had our July 8th, July 9th pump, we kind of peaked around the 23rd. And since then, we have been selling off. But I want to just say this right away that this is not a Jasmy issue. This is more Bitcoin being annoying. Okay. And I'll prove it. So we can see Bitcoin has sold off a little bit, right? It has sold off a little bit. It's been kind of going sideways overall the last few weeks. But look, ladies and gentlemen, right? We can see it has been selling off. Even just from the 27th, it was around 120K. And today at one point, it was already at 116K. Now, there's a reason for this. Okay. There's a reason. The reason is because there's an annoying gap at around $114,500. So, it's normal that if the markets do want to go up, right? If they do want to continue to go up to 130K, 140, 115, etc., that this gap has a very, very extremely high probability of getting filled, right? I would say probably like a 99.9% chance. I know some people might say, well, what about the 92K gap from all the way down here? For me, this was a different context because kind of once we left this 94K zone and we went up to 112, I mean, we would have had to drop a huge amount, right? We would have had to drop roughly almost 20% for Bitcoin, going down 20,000. And I just didn't see that happening. Even back then, I just said I don't see that happening. But this drop of $3,000, more or less, I definitely see this happening, which means obviously something like Jasmy is going to suffer. But the good thing is, ladies and gentlemen, I don't expect the dump to be that big, right? I don't expect the dump to be that big. And overall, I expect Jasmy to be holding. When we go and look at the technical analysis, we can see that overall we have been kind of just ranging ever since you could say the beginning of March, right? Technically, we're still selling off, but once we kind of bounce back in April, this was already the key indication that we are going to be ranging. And we can see we've been mainly ranging between 1 cent, I would say, and like upwards of 2 cents, right? That's like the main zone. And that's good. That is good. The reason why that is good, ladies and gentlemen, because when something sells off, right, and then starts going sideways, the next move is to start going up. Now, here's the thing. Some people get too impatient. So once they see, Jasmine go from 1 cent to 2 cents, they think it's automatically going to be pumping, pumping, pumping. But no, you have to realize usually it takes, like 3 or 4 attempts to really break out of the zone. And we can see, right, we've only had 2 attempts so far, right? We came up to here, boom, we bounced off once, boom, we bounced off twice. And I do think the third time, right, if there is going to be any type of rejection, I think it's going to be extremely minor. And I think we're going to break through, right? So I kind of expect the third time to really start pushing its way up. Now, we can see, ladies and gentlemen, when we go to something like the weekly looks very, very good, right? Not this current week, but just generally speaking, we can see that we have this low over here. We have this higher low over here and this higher low over here. Well, what does that mean? That means the floor is consistently raising. Okay, if the market makers, if exchanges, if people are buying something at a consistent higher price every time it goes down and it struggles to go lower, that means demand at those prices are extremely high, right? They're extremely high because we saw Jasmy under 1 cent has been getting bought up. Jasmy hit around the 1 cent again, got bought up. Then it hit 1.2 cents. It didn't even reach 1 cent this time. This time around, I don't expect it to go further than lower than 1.3 cents, right? So if we start seeing a reversal around 1.6, 1.4 cents, you can just see that the floor is consistently raising. Now, I will say the one thing that I'm not the biggest fan of, which doesn't necessarily have to mean it's the end, is this monthly candle, right? Because we are closing below this huge support, which we really, really wanted to flip. Now we still do have a day left. So, technically we could just have a crucial day tomorrow, but that's never a guarantee, right? Especially with how Bitcoin looks, especially with how this weekly candle looks, it's never a guarantee. But ladies and gentlemen, that means we are kind of getting sandwiched, right? Because we do have this support here, but we do have the monthly floors raising too. So we're kind of getting squished from both sides. We're getting squished from up here. We're kind of below a big support and the floor is raising. So something has to give, which makes me believe that in August, we will be breaking through. Even though technically technical analysis might suggest, it's a 50-50 because this is the floor, or sorry, this is the roof. This is the lower roof, right, which is not good. This is the floor. This is a higher floor, which is good for us. We have one bad side and we have one good side. But because of the context of the markets, because I believe we're overall going to be fairly bullish, right, I still expect a break to the upside. I really, really do. So that is my personal bias, right? It might be something similar to kind of like the way we were down here, okay, where we had this kind of candle where it closed below these three candles, right? It didn't look the best. It didn't look the healthiest, right? If you do something like this, you can clearly see, right? It's below the zone, but then what happened the next month? It broke through, right? It broke through. So I do expect nice pumps with Jasmy coming around the corner, right? Coming around the corner, especially that we have been consistently raising our floors. Okay. And if our floors are consistently getting raised while we are in a range, right? This range over here, then that means eventually, ladies and gentlemen, every time we go back down lower, right, we're not gonna go as low as we previously went, and they're gonna get something like this before it breaks. So yeah, that is ultimately what I expect. Let me know what you guys think of Jasmy. I still believe, we should be hitting very, very high numbers. I do believe we should be going upwards of, 20 cents, 30 cents. I know some people are skeptical. I know some people, they're a little bit iffy with that type of price action. But I really do believe at the bare minimum, we should be looking to sweep these tops over here. So for me, 32 cents or even going upwards of 40 cents and then crashing, right? And then crashing is much more likely than just going up, to 5 or 10 cents like some people speculate. You guys have to remember that altcoin season is very powerful. It happens only once every couple of years for about 4 weeks. And it is practically the most unrealistic type of price action the market gets. But that's why it is the best, because it's an unsustained type of pump that can't last more than a couple of weeks, but it's the most insane gains. And I do believe Jasmy will be a part of that. But yeah, that is ultimately it, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know what you guys think. We'd really love to hear your guys' opinion. Let me know if you want Jasmy every single day, 3 times a week, 5 times a week. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, I love you guys so much, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Goodbye.